Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. We've had a few days out. We've done a few days out type videos. A lot of people seem to like those. I've got one that doesn't. Not quite sure why. But today's a day in. I've got my Orchid Society meeting tonight, and I'm thinking of taking a couple of plants. They'll need to be got ready. Our competition tables are pretty extreme, and the slightest little thing on your plant can get you marked down. Judges are strict to all, not just it's fair, but it is pretty damn strict. So you take a plant with a couple of tatty leaves in, or anything like that, you're going to get marked down. And if you're going to put it in the competition part of the display, well, then you need to go in it with a chance to win it. It's no good just plonking a plant in there in any old state. I mean, you might do well, but you could do better. That's the thing. So I've got a couple of plants I might need to get ready. As I go round today, I'm only watering the mounts today, and the things like the vandas and stuff like that. And they're only getting a flush, so it's a fast process. So I haven't got to keep messing about with feed levels and TDS meters and such. But I can already see a few things that I'd like to film today. I'll do them as I get to them. And tomorrow morning, on the first day where the weather's likely to not be nice, I'm going on an organised orchid walk, which is not really my thing. I like those type of events to be for me, and I love the solitude that I get from them. But this is an organised walk to a very special place. It is a small area of woodland that, to all intents and purposes, doesn't really look any different to the other areas of woodland in and around that area. But in this one place are some very special orchids, including one where this is one of the last remaining sites that orchid actually exists in this country. Now, I'm not sure that particular one's going to be in bloom this time of year, but there are others there that by going on an organised walk I'm not going to miss. So obviously I'll do a video and some stills to go with that. There are some orchids there that I could spend a month visiting loads and loads of places and not find any of them. And in this one place, they're all together with somebody to help find them, who hopefully knows where the hell they are. Now, knowing me, I'm going to get there a lot earlier than the organised tour start and do a little walk round on my own. But in this wood, the chances of ever being on your own are very, very slim. It's such a well-known site. It's going to get a constant flow of cameras, basically. It's just that popular. But then the weather's supposed to brighten up as the day goes on. There's another site close by that I've caught wind of that literally is only sort of 5 or 6 miles away from where this walk is. Totally different type of venue. But there are 2 or 3 of the butterflies that I've been trying to find on my walks and failed. And apparently they're all out and about in this little place. It's only little, and I got to do some climbing again, as flipping usual. But hopefully I'll be able to find those. There's 2 which I've never seen. In all the walks and all my nature things that I've done in my whole life, there's still a few butterflies that are in my area that I've never seen. And this year I'm determined to hit those off the list as best I can. It just gets me out. All this walking up and down the hills must be good for the old fitness level. Getting the old podge down. Not that I've got much of one of those, but it all helps. Anyway, I'll see what else I can film as I go round. And then I completely forgot why I was pointing the camera at this while I was rabbiting. When you try something new, you have to gain confidence on whether it's working for you or not. And Danny said with the Maxillaria tenuifolia, because of the way the roots grow down through these sheaths, that it's actually a good idea to give those sheaths a good soaking while you're watering the plant. And quite honestly, I thought, Well, it does sound like a good idea. I'll give it a try. So every time I've been watering this plant, I've been giving the sheaths a soak. And quite honestly, the proof of the pudding, as they say, I got roots coming out all over the place. You know, those roots have now got the confidence to break out of those dry sheaths and find other places to grow. Some of which will be down into the mount, obviously. But yeah, I can happily say that that is working for me. Now, bearing in mind I don't get my plants wet, this is quite an exception. You know, I was dubious, but I thought certainly this time of year, if I get this plant soaking wet, with the fans on full blast and the temperatures and the long days, it's not going to stay wet long, so it's got to be worth a try. I certainly won't be doing this in the winter time, and as the days dramatically shorten. I mean, we're up, I think we're actually at 16 hours daylight now. Our longest day is a fraction, seconds, under 16 and a half hours. And that will be in a couple of weeks' time. 3 weeks, I think, something like that. And then the days start slowly but surely getting shorter again. But that still means I've got 3 to 4 months good growing season left. And in that time, I've got to do the best I can. Because after that time, the days get so short. By the time the poor old orchids have blinked their eyes and realised it's daylight, it's starting to get dark again. And things just don't grow very well in the UK winter. The days are too short, temperature's too low, and the light level that we get is poor quality. So everything just slows up. Some things even stop. Anyway, this one works. While I'm here, we'll just have a quick look at this one. This is a Brassica cross produced locally. I mean, Vericosa I know well, the other one I don't know so well, but it's a named cross and it's growing quite nicely. The two new growths, one at the base of each of those, the far left and the middle pseudobulbs, are currently sort of sitting on hold. They're not moving forward. They've been like that over 2 weeks now. If they were going to push on at a rate of knots, they'd be doing it. And the chances are they've been suppressed because it's decided to bloom, which I'm pleased about. The spike is now just starting its bud separation phase, you know, which means those buds will now start to extend. The spike probably won't grow that much longer, which is also good. Because a Brassica with a spike that's only 12, 13 inches long is an exception to the rule. Because some of the Brassica spikes are 3 or 4 feet long. Yeah, they got masses of blooms and everything, but they're difficult to accommodate. But this plant is also an exception for me. Although this is a Brassica, these roots are difficult to hydrate in my normal watering method. So this now gets a different method. It gets dunked in there for about 15 minutes, and even after that amount of time those roots are only just hydrated, they're only just showing their green colour. So that's my only choice. Yeah, I know the plant's in the bucket as well, it'll dry off within an hour, it's not a big deal, and that's the way I'm getting that one hydrated. There's another one that's in the same boat, and in fact it can go in there at the same time, save me a bit of wait time. This is my Brassivola. No, it's not. It's my Rhyncholalia glauca. Come on, brain. More coffee needed. But it's doing its root thing. Well, there's two plants there. There's the one on the right pushing upwards and moving out to the left where my little finger is. That's its front lead. And there's the piece below that is at the moment showing no signs of life, and it may get taken off as a consequence. The leaves are starting to yellow, so it might not make it. But yes, it's throwing out a lovely, good new root system, and will they hydrate? Will they hell? So you can go in the bucket too, and just sit there and soak for as long as it takes. Now, the only downside of that is that has got a feed level more suited to Vandas than the run-of-the-mill orchids. So that's a stronger feed than they would normally get. But I'm not feeding strong this year. Nothing is getting strong feed right up to the full level. They're all getting lower levels, but far more frequently. And that's this year's way of feeding. Last year's way of feeding was to feed at higher levels, but not very often. And that may have caused some problems. Not proven, but I'm pretty certain in some cases some plants didn't like it. But so yeah, this year it's a little and often. That's the way I'm looking at it. The little obviously has a chance to build up. Yeah, you keep repeating a dose of something and the plant doesn't use it, it will build up in your media and on your roots. Salts build up. That's what it's normally termed as. Which means I need to flush, which I'm doing religiously this year and was seriously neglectful last year, which combined with what else I was doing with the feed levels may have been the cause of some of the problems. But again, not proven, just assumptions. And most of the plants were fine. You know, there were only a couple that just didn't seem to be that happy last year. And we'll see how they get on this year. But yeah, so some plants just need a soak. And part of that is because they're on mounts. If they were in pots, the media would stay wet for a couple of days at least and give those roots plenty of time to hydrate. But because they're on a mount, they dry out quickly. So they have to be soaked. That's just the way it is at the moment. Oh, the new Tolumnia is opening up a bit better now. That's quite an attractive one. It's not as the picture stated. The picture was misleading, but nonetheless I like the blooms. But they're not what I was expecting. The picture actually showed those yellow bits on the tips to actually be bright green. And if you could imagine a sort of apple green with that red, that would have been pretty damn special. But we've got yellow and red, which is a more typical type colour. The red is distinctive. Most Tolumnias are predominantly red. Some of them have whites and pinks and some have yellows, but the red's virtually always there. But yeah, it's an attractive bloom, but not what was expected. Misleading picture. Probably taken in the wrong light, and then somebody looked at the picture and thought, I'll blow it, that'll have to do. Well, you shouldn't do that when you're selling orchids. The picture needs to be right. Otherwise it's misrepresentation. In my book anyway. This other little one hiding in here is down to its last bloom. That's the Oriental pear. And this was just a little side branch off the main spike. It just had 2 blooms on, but I let them go, and obviously when that bloom goes the spike is going to die back. It's not going to branch again. And the only other Tolumnia out at the moment is Tolumnia peach, which is still doing nicely. Some blooms have faded, but it's still out, and I'm thinking I might actually take that one tonight. I'll have a think. I mean, the trouble is a couple of the blooms are starting to go, you know, and like this one here where my thumb is obvious. That bloom is fading, you know, and the idea is that you've got a full set of blooms. A few unopened buds is acceptable, but they don't like a spike showing a couple of blooms that are going over. You know, that's not all in their book. But that to me is the best one. See if I can get it. Look at the colour on that. That's the best bloom on this spike by far. It's perfect. And the peach is deep. And that's not a fading bloom. And I wonder sometimes, that's hanging downwards underneath all the others. You know, are they affected by the light? Is the colour affected? Oh, there's another good one round here. But yeah, still good blooms. No other spikes starting or anything on the Tolumnias. Once those 3 are gone, that's it for a while. But this is also a good plant. You know, as my Tolumnias go, this is doing its root thing. It's got 2 leads going off in different directions. It's got a nice new growth there coming up from between the leaves. And yeah, I mean, it's not a bad Tolumnia. And it has got a good root system that hydrates nicely. So this one's easy to look after at the moment. Some of the others are not so good. Anyway, that's Tolumnias. And the next one I've got to dig out because I'm determined to film it, but it's not on the watering schedule and it's buried in behind stuff. So I'll have to do some digging. But while I'm here, before I start digging, this one's opening up nicely. This is the Encyclia Green Hornet. No, it's not. It's Prosthetia Green Hornet. I think it once was Encyclia. Maybe I just need another coffee. But these are lovely blooms. You know, see if I can get in. If you look at the colour on the lip, on the hood, It's lovely, deep, rich purple with stripes, and then it's got its alien octopus look as well. But yeah, there's 4 blooms out. Another 2 will follow on very shortly, and at that point, in fact, I think it's normally as the first bloom fades on a spike, the spike starts to extend. But it will extend, it should get some more buds as the older flowers fade. That's the species element of it that does that, and hopefully its trait will follow on into this one. Yeah, lovely plant. And these 2 Miltoniopsis blooms, I've been saying they're not long for this world for so long now, I'm getting fed up with saying it, but they really, this time, are not long for this world. You can see that's gone limp, floppy and papery. But the next 2 are about to open, so I'll get a continuation, and quite honestly those blooms have lasted absolutely ages, which means hopefully these 2 will. I'm a little bit fed up with 2 bloom spikes on my Miltoniopsis. You know, 4 or 5 might be nice now and again, come on you guys. But then the temperatures we've had in here recently, I mean it was up to 29 in here yesterday, and I could only manage 60% humidity at that temperature. Everything was struggling to keep up. It's going to do that again today, then the weather breaks. Yesterday I was sucking in air that was at least as warm as the maximum temperature I'd like it to be in here. So there was very little cooling effect. All I could do was up the level of the fans and keep the air movement as high as possible. Literally plants were bending over in the breeze, but that's the best I can do when the temperatures get that high. And it's an exception, it doesn't happen often in the UK. But yeah, 2 more Miltoniopsis blooms, that's her Alexandre. And it's nice to have some more. I like my Miltoniopsis. They're not the easiest to grow, but the 2 that I've got at the moment are not doing bad. I won't say they're doing great, but they're not doing bad. That's all I can hope for in this heat. This was one of the ones I wanted to dig out. I only just noticed this was actually out the other day, literally yesterday or the day before. It's an Odontoglossum species, Nevium. Well, that's how I say it. You can do what you like, but I think spelling it right is more important than saying it right. But the blooms on this are the sort of bloom that warrant closer inspection, because they are incredibly delicate. I don't detect any fragrance, but then they've only just opened. I don't remember it being fragrant from last time it bloomed, but yeah, just literally just opened. Lovely delicate blooms. The spotting is just subtle rather than shouty loud. That lovely piece of yellow in the middle, and the curly lip, you know, the curly petals and sepals, it just looks nice. It's unusual. Not your normal shape. You know, most people think of the Odontoglossums as pretty big and blousy, but then this is a species. It's got another spike here to come. That's not a very good spike, that one. And then it's got another one round here pushing on. It's also got several more new growths. This seems to bloom on the growths as they reach full size, in as much as the length of the leaves are at their full length, but prior to the pseudobulb swelling. You know, if you look, they do create proper shaped pseudobulbs eventually, even though the older ones on here are a bit desiccated. Hopefully my new ones won't be. But yeah, so the growths haven't swollen at the base yet to form the pseudobulbs, but nonetheless they are full length. So that's the point at which it seems to spike, which is good. You know, that'll give me a clue for next time. And this one's certainly not worth taking into the Orchid Society, because our chairman had one at the last meeting, and he had 7 spikes on his, all open at the same time. And they were delicately, because as you can see, these are very fine, they were delicately wired to look like they naturally gently arched out of the plant. Lovely balanced circle of blooms all facing outwards. It was really, really well thought about, ready for display. Whereas my spikes just arch over as and when. I like to see them naturally. That's how I like to see them. But it doesn't make them good for display. If I tried to put that stake up right now, if I tried to stake it, the plants would all be sideways and it would look silly. The blooms are upright at the point they open. Their aspect is already created long before they open. So if you move the spike, you'll end up with sideways on or even upside down blooms. And to me, that just looks wrong. This is the way the blooms are naturally supposed to be produced on this plant. And that's the way I like to see them. Anyway, that was in bloom when I got it last year. And I can't remember how many spikes it had, but it was in bloom and I've got it to rebloom despite the heat. You know, it's an odontoglossum species renowned for being more like a Nellie Isla. They don't like the heat and they don't like dry air. So for this to be doing this well in here, I'm over the moon. You know, it's the only odontoglossum species I've got. All the others are hybrids of one sort or another. Actually, I tell a lie, there is another one, but that one hasn't bloomed yet. You'll hear the cheer if that one ever does. Anyway, that's one. Now, last time I filmed this Orangus Mysticidi, definitely going to have to stop and have to have a coffee. It had two things starting to grow at the base that looked like they might be spikes, and I said, just give it a little bit of time and you can soon tell. And the instant you see that tiny little bit of white at the base, you know it's a root. Simple as that. So they're both roots. So disappointment that they're not spikes, either or, but pleased that it's still growing some nice new roots. You know, another nice new one at the top there. But yeah, still no sign of a spike on this one. But it's growing well, so it will bloom eventually. It's just patience. It's a nice plant, and it is growing well. Got nice root tips on some of the older ones, and some nice new roots pushing out, and some lovely new leaves all over the place. So it's growing well. I think as far as plants to go to the competition table are concerned, I think that Nobly Hybrid Wedding Bells needs to go. There aren't any Noblies about at the moment. Most of them are late winter, early spring bloomers. So to actually put a Nobly on the table, the chances are it'll be the only one, and it has put on a good show. And also it's yellow. You know, there's an awful lot of Noblies are on the white, pinks and purples front with splashes of yellow. But to have one that is predominantly yellow with that lovely splash of deep purple in there and the bright gold and veining on the lip, they're very attractive blooms, and there's quite a lot of them, and it's a good, strong, healthy plant, so I think that one can go in. And the other one I'm thinking about taking is this, which is the Friedrichianum. It's not exactly a mass blooming, but I'm going to get a shed load of points for the plant, you know, which is at least a third of the blinking points. You know, the canes have grown really well. It's a good example. It has a shed load of new growths. It has a shed load of new roots. Yeah? So the trouble is with this one, the blooms hang down, and to see them at their best, it's going to be difficult, especially with that cane that hasn't gone pendulous yet. That big thing sticking up there has yet to gain enough weight to dangle down here with the rest of them. It might have to have some help. But again, this one's got some good buds not open yet, good new roots, and a good blooming. So I might take that one as well. Still not sure. To take two yellow dendrobiums might be pushing my luck, and the Wedding Bells is the better of the two, although probably a lot easier to bloom than this one. You know, this one needs the old rest treatment stuff or it doesn't do its thing. It's only ever bloomed once for me before, and I think it had 2 blooms, and that was it. But then I hadn't had it long. Now I have, and that's not bad blooming. you can see that the very old canes bloomed. You can see the stumps sticking up, yeah? So that's good. That means it had bloomed in that season. And then you can see that the deciduous canes that went deciduous this winter have all bloomed nicely. And then I have a shed load of new canes ready for next spring. So it's in cycle. You can see the cycles on it, and that always helps with you know, with plants that you take in, you know. And I've had this one a long time. This is its best blooming by far, and I assume next year it's going to be a lot better, because the canes it's going to bloom off of are twice the size. So next year that's going to be even better with any luck. But yeah, attractive blooms. Okay, I'm going to have to stop filming now because the temperature's climbing and I need all the fans on. The idea being that if you can get your fans on early enough and keep the air moving, it takes longer before it heats up. But I just thought I'd end on my Bulbophyllum Elizabeth Ann Buckleberry that is pushing on at a goodly rate. The little dangly bits are getting longer. Yeah, it's pushing on nicely, and the second bud is coming on its tails. So do you know, I'm going to have to go and look at a picture because I can't remember what these look like, so I don't even know if they're open yet. I think they've got pink in them, but yeah, I mean, if it's not fully open yet, then it will be soon. But it's going to be a good spike. You know, it's a nice even shape to it. Yeah, nicely balanced. I'm pretty sure what the previous spikes were sort of hanging on top of each other and weren't nicely spread around in that nice hand shape that you get. So I think that one's going to be quite a nice spike. So coming soon. So thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you next time. And I'm sure I'll have an update on tonight's Orchid Society meeting. There is a points competition table which I shall film like I usually do and see what interesting stuff other people have brought in. And as I said, I'm certainly taking wedding bells in. I've made my mind up that one's going in, and I may take Tolumnia Peach, I may take Friedrichsianum. I'm not sure yet. You know, it's the amount of plants you take, you know, can become a burden. They've all got to be got in the car carefully, trying not to damage any new growths or anything like that, and driven, you know, going around bends and stuff and braking. And then when you get there, they've got to be set up and carried from the car, and then all taken down and put back in and brought home in the dark. You know, so it is a bit of a problem, you know, with potential damage to your plants and your spikes. So I might just go with the one. I haven't made my mind up yet, but you'll find out tomorrow. In fact, it might be late tomorrow. My orchid walk starts at 10, and I want to be there before 9 o'clock. So I'm on the road like probably 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So, you know, I'm not going to be around messing with videos until quite late in the day, possibly even into Sunday, I don't know. But we'll see how we go. Okay, thanks for dropping by. Bye for now.